The various.
Let's go. It's your host, Nick Perrette, and you're listening to Commercial Roofing Radio. This is the hottest radio station in the roofing world. We are your favorite place to hang out, learn, and shoot the shit. So sit back in your truck's chair, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode of Commercial Roofing Radio. Our next guest is the man, the legend, Reggie Brock. All right, so I had the chance to meet Reggie at the American Contractors Summit that John Dye hosts, and he was actually the kickoff speaker on day one. And I was sitting there, and I was ready to jump on my seat, man. I was like, all right, I got to do some things. I'm ready to live my full potential. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Reggie actually went to biblical school, very involved in the church. He is the national account manager at Beacon Roofing Supply and has been in the industry for over 30 years. He lives in Florida, loves the golf. Sounds like he's pretty good with that 5-iron, so you better watch out when he's whipping that out. Reggie bought an RV to avoid the airports and hotels, so we'll definitely be talking about that. You know, as anybody in business who's traveling a lot, that's a real interesting story. But today he'll be teaching us how to live exposed, right? How to live the life we were meant to live, all right? And speaking of live exposed, make sure that you check out Reggie's podcast, Live Exposed, where he will continue to help you along that journey after today's episode. So, Reggie, let's move some mountains, man. How we living?
I'm ready. Good, man. Things are real well. I enjoyed our first time meeting up in Indianapolis. Short time, but I was really, first of all, proud to be a part of it and kind of kicking and setting some tone off at the beginning. But just watching you and John kind of move through the couple of days was really inspiring to me. So I'm glad we're finally getting to spend a little time together.
Absolutely, man. So you said the golf game's been looking good. Hey, I heard 210 with that 5. That's pretty nice, and that's in Florida, right? That's not in Colorado altitude over here.
Distance has never been a problem. But one of the things that I tell people in life is this: look, man, you can hit it a long way, but if you have trouble finding where it went, I don't know how advantageous that is for scoring. And so what I was doing is making a bunch of mistakes with that big driver, and I could hit it a long way. The problem was sometimes I couldn't find it, and I was penalized. So I thought, this is nonsense. I'm about scoring, so let's get accurate, let's get controlled, and let's get a better score. And so that's kind of what's happened to me. I've kind of reduced my need for power and distance and replaced it for accuracy and scoring. And that's a real principle I live by too. So it's been interesting.
You know, and I can almost take that same mindset with just kind of life as I've gotten older too, right? I'm still kind of figuring things out, and I feel like I was very power, right? I'm just going to work hard, power, and everything was just I'm just going to drive through it, right? And I think as I'm getting older, I'm trying to figure out how to be more strategic, right? How to take better approaches, how to be more effective, and things like that.
And that's the way progress looks. That's the way progress looks. It's about accuracy, precision. And it's about actually hitting a target. And so sometimes you have to back down in the aggression. Sometimes you have to look at life from a different perspective with the ultimate end being a target desired. And so I just, I'll look at things and really in terms of how can I fine tune what I'm doing to become more accurate, precise, which ultimately leads me quicker to the result that I'm looking for.
That's what's crazy is in life, that's easier said than done, especially I feel like with your career, right? Where you're so busy being busy that you don't take the time on the day for development and progression. What do you see? Like, how are people able to make sure that that's a priority? Is it just pretty much building out the habits of development and kind of building that into your lifestyle? How does that come about? Make sure you're making time for it.
Well, I think first thing is you have to slow down. I think most of us are running at such a fast pace that we lose sight of details. And so many times the details is what drives the ultimate result that we're looking for. And we have big visions. We have a lot. Listen to the noise around this, man. I mean, it's all about 10xing, and it's all about accumulation, and it's all. And I'm not opposed to any of that, but the fact of the matter is, sometimes I have to slow down, recalibrate, gather myself so that I can ultimately get the result I want, not what everybody else thinks is right for me. Slow down, number one. I think the second thing is you have to develop habits and attributes and characteristics that prove themselves to work for you and are sustainable, right? I mean, it's like you have to build framework based upon your uniqueness that allows you to perform the task required to get actually what's purposed for you. Not what's purpose for everybody else. You don't have to be everybody else. Who you are is important, and at the end of who you are is what belongs to you. And so what we are after it can only be, to me, captured when we're ourselves and we're purposed and we're intentional about getting the best out of ourselves, slowly developing ourselves so that we can actually not miss important details that push us to the room where all of our prosperity lies.
So what's the difference between those people who reach that full potential and the people who don't? I mean, let's be honest. Everybody wants to be happy and successful, but not all of us are going to be.
Yeah. Right. So for me, I really think that some people they just quit too soon. They're distracted easily. I think that's one of the biggest flaws in many of our characters today, is that we set off hard and fast, but we're just not patient. We're just not deliberate. We're just not willing to kind of wait for things to happen. We've got to have it in the morning. And so, it's like, I use this analogy as a part of my life. And that is, look, I plant a seed today. I don't eat the fruit tomorrow. So the key to me eating fruit is the time between when I plant and when I harvest. And if I run away from that and start over again because I was just impatient, that's on me. That's on nobody else. I think that's one of the big flaws that people have. It's like we just don't give what's in us time to grow out of us. And so we're on to the next thing. And, we're distracted by something else. And we just never, one of the problems is we just don't stay and hold on to things until they're complete and done.
And I think one good way to try to combat that or improve at that, if you're not good at being consistent and staying in the arena, sticking with it and everything like that, is, take goals that are a little bit easier, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be career orientated, right? And start developing a plan, consistency to achieve that, right? And once you see that you can do that in one area of your life, you start to build confidence, right? And what you want to do is you want to set yourself up with little wins that you celebrate, right? You need to celebrate. You need that dopamine hit, right? You get addicted to it. And then from there, you start to build and build on it, right? Slowly but surely.
That's a great point. I mean, we are so worried about winning the Super Bowl that the game we're playing that will get us to the Super Bowl, we just overlook. And then ultimately, the ultimate goal of a big win for us is missed because small wins never happen.
Yep.
To get to the Super Bowl, the season matters. I mean, you can't say, hey, it's September, we're starting the game. We'll see y'all in February at the Super Bowl. You got to get out and compete and win along the way. And I think that's the way we are in life. We sometimes sabotage now for a future. And what people don't realize is that future is completely tied into what we do with the now. And so, to your point, these little wins, and they don't have to be massive and notable to the whole world. It's just like we know that step is the next step to what the big prize that we're looking for. I think it's a great point.
Yeah, 100%, man. One thing before we get too deep in the weeds here, because I know that we're going to be really getting into some good stuff and teaching a lot of life lessons and stuff that people can implement. I do want to talk about the kind of the RV quick because I feel like that's a good, that's a good story to
Yeah,
tell to kind of bring it into, what this is all about, So first
yeah,
off, why did you get the RV? You remind me of the late great, John Madden taking the bus to the games instead of the plane.
yeah, yeah. So for me, my life, especially now, is about not just what I want to do, but what I don't want to do. I want,
Mm-hmm.
and those are usually tied to some kind of distraction. There's just, I have my mindset on stuff, and what gets in my way are distractions. And if I can eliminate distractions, I'll get quicker to what I need to be doing and what I want to do and what I want to accomplish. And travel was like that for me. I mean, I'm going over 100 nights a year.
Wow.
And so I am going into, airports. In my opinion, you go into airports, you lose control. I mean, you're just told what to, and I'm not against it. I'm just saying it was a huge distraction for me. Huge
Yeah.
distraction for me. Even though I had access to the clubs there, I would go in and I'm looking at hungry and people pilfered over food, and it's a distraction for me. It affected my diet. And I mean, I'm like, then I
It
get up
does.
and I go and I sit down, and they bump you off your seat and put you on another seat, and then I end up between two people, and I'm like, it's just distracting. Then I get out of the airport, I find Uber, and I can't find a ride. So you see what I'm saying? It's just all,
Mm-hmm.
and then I go to hotels. They're
That's
charging
true.
me the same rate that they were before they cleaned my room every day. I mean, it's just like distract. And so I have to get to the hotel, and four. I need a half a day to decompress.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so before my meetings with my customers, and so I was literally, my wife and I were coming back. We live again in Florida. I had a meeting in
Mm.
Atlanta. She went with me. We went to truck, and coming back, she says to me this: "Hey, would you ever think about an RV?" First thing out of my mouth was absolutely not. And then the more I started thinking about it, I'm like, you know what this does? It eliminates everything I hate about traveling. Right? I mean, I can leave when I want to leave. I don't have TSA to deal with. My food is my food. My bed is my bed. I can hang my clothes up. It just removed distractions in my
Mm-hmm.
life. Now, I've had friends of mine go like, but you have to drive. So what? It's
Mm-hmm.
just a matter of what works for you. And for us, now she can travel more with me. And we're together when I travel more. And, I have more control. And to me, the life lesson was it gave me this transcending capability to get past these distractions that were holding me back and travel. And when
Mm-hmm.
I say holding me back, I was blessed that I was able to travel and, fly and, hotels and all that. But now it's like, okay, I'm better when I get there because I just don't have to deal with these distractions. So what I tell people all the time is, whether it's an RV or whatever it is, eliminate distractions that get you quicker to what you do best so that you can get the result you and others around you need.
Mm-hmm.
That's the RV story.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Plus, I can carry my golf clubs with me because at any given time, I may have to pull them out.
Ah, hey, come on, swing by Denver, man. I'll let you whip my butt a little bit out here,
Yeah.
right? No, I love that, man. And I think, distractions is such a big thing, right? People, they have one mission and then maybe it's taking too long
Yeah.
or it's, whatever it might be, and they jump to the next one. So anything that you can do to kind of put the blinders on, limit distractions, and allow you to get
Yeah.
where you're trying to go quicker is big. All right. So
Exactly.
the next one is kind of one of my favorites, right? Because I've always been, personal development, growth minded. I always love that stuff, right? And I love getting better at it, learning it. It's one of those things where it's, you have to work it like a muscle, right? It's your mind. You have to keep working that mind in a positive direction,
Yeah.
right? One of the biggest issues for people to reach that full potential, though, is self, limited beliefs, right? Their own limitations,
Mm-hmm.
boundaries that they're putting on themselves. Why do you think they're doing that? How can they remove that so they can kind of get to that next level, live that life
Yeah.
that they want to?
I think the word you chose, boundaries, is great
Mm,
because I think, and everything I talk about is stuff I've lived, and so it's really familiar with me. So when the reason I'm so passionate about this is stuff I've had to overcome, and these boundaries is what caused me to get sick and tired of being held back. And so for me, I think to answer your question, I think that people, rather than deal and resolve with issues in their life, they stuff them and think that if I don't see them, I don't talk about them, they're not visible to everybody else, they'll just magically go away. And the problem is they never do. So with me, my boundaries were not anything you could see. I never talked about them. I never dealt with them. And eventually they started working their way out of me, and it showed up in my behavior. So there were some things inside of me that were tied to failures and disappointments in my life and, hurts. And there were just things in me that I never dealt with. And so what I encourage people to do is to realize that your boundaries are not what people see. It's the things that you're holding on to that you don't want to talk about. And so for me, once I started chiseling away at that, organically my performance got better because we only have so much room in us, to be able to hold things. And so when you start freeing up those cavities or those cancerous kind of places in your life that are really holding you back, you're tethered to them, so to speak. All of a sudden you wake up one day and you feel free in your mind to really activate in a new way and be able to produce at a higher level because you're just not, again, distracted and despondent and being held back for things that you have been really chained to for years.
Yep.
And that's what it was for me. So I use this example, and you've heard it before, that my wife is a pharmacist, and I'm paraphrasing again because I know this is going to be broadcast, and she'll hear it, and I want to make sure she knows I'm paraphrasing. She's actually in the other room, so she's hearing this. So she's a pharmacist, and when I started talking about doing this podcast called Live Exposed, I said, John Dye, which both of you and I are friends with, John came up with the idea, actually, after he kind of heard what was in my heart, how my head was kind of running some ideas around that I shared with him. He says, Live Exposed. I loved it when I heard it. So I went to my wife, and I'm like, well, I hear, because you always got to get upper management approval, right? And so I said, here's we're going to call it Live Exposed. What do you think? She said, when I hear the word Live Exposed, she said, listen, I think of bacteria and again, I'm paraphrasing, that's under the skin that nobody sees but can cause great damage. And the only way it really survives is if it stays in the dark. And when she said that, and I'm paraphrasing, and when she said that, I thought, that's me. There are things in me that have just remained in the dark because I wanted them to stay there, because if they were revealed or exposed, I felt like people would think less of me. Right? I felt like people, my brand would be affected, or whatever. I was embarrassed, honestly. And so when she said that what you do is you have to lance it open, expose it to oxygen, and it has a way of dying. And so I thought to myself, okay, so I've got issues in my life that I'll expose them to light and oxygen. And what's beginning to happen is the same thing. It's just dying away because I'm finally getting the dark things in my life out by exposing them to light and oxygen. And it's transformed my life. I'm not perfect by any means. I'm still growing in some areas. But what I tell people is this: you've got to learn to prioritize living inside out, not outside in. You've got to look at your life beginning on the inside, because listen, what people see, the fruit of our life, so to speak, is tied directly to a root in our life. Roots produce fruit. And so the root starts by a seed. But the fact of the matter is, you can't change roots until you deal with the inside stuff and start ripping out roots that are producing the wrong fruit in your life. And, I have found that to be difficult and painful, and that's why most people don't want to do it. They just don't want to put the work in.
So are you basically saying like moments that of failure or embarrassment or things that just didn't go the way they expected, that basically kind of jaded them and the way that they're looking at themselves and their confidence and everything?
Yeah.
That's basically what you're saying?
Yeah, and I
Mm,
think that's the thing that's kept them from progressing. It's
mm-hmm.
because those things set in you, and unless they're dealt with, it's like I call it. I don't call it. The term for it is this. It's this internal dialogue,
Yeah,
right? Where
exactly.
even though nobody on the outside sees it, you get at night by yourself and turn everything off. That head, I mean, those minds. That mind keeps running, and that voice keeps speaking to you. And what happens is, until you resolve something in you, that voice doesn't shut up.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm.
that's what keeps me from getting up confidently at times, going to the next day and thinking, I'm going to progress because I've dealt with some of these things and I've eliminated some of these things in my life that have kept me back.
Mm. Mm. I love that. I love that. And hey, if you're in one of those ruts, right, where maybe you've been jaded, you've had failures, you feel knocked
Yeah,
down, you know, one thing I'll say right away is stop listening to yourself and start talking to yourself, right? Majority of
that's
your
good.
thoughts are going to be negative. You need to pump in some positive feedback, right? So you need to be talking to yourself positively, right? And doing anything you can to get some wins going and build that confidence. Because it's one of those things in life, good or bad, momentum is strong, right? When you feel like you're hot and you feel like you can't do anything wrong, you're feeling good and on top of the world. But all of a sudden, when that shifts and it goes negative, right? So you got to shift in that positive direction. What about
So let me say
what?
this before we
Yeah,
leave
yeah.
that point. Let me say
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
The other thing I would tell you is if you're feeling jaded, you're listening to this, you feel jaded, you feel hurt, you feel disappointed, even in yourself. Can I tell you this? Welcome to the club.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're a part of, whether people admit it or not, everybody has sensed what you're feeling. The issue is, which is going to be more important to you, your bounce back or these setbacks?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a motto of my life. I have had a bunch of setbacks of just poor decision making that made me skeptical, made me afraid really to try again. But then I started kind of pushing through that. And when I die, and people talk about legacy all the time, one of the things that I think about legacy is this. I don't want to. I don't want people to remember me when I'm gone for my failures or my setbacks. I want them to remember the momentum that was created for me and others around me as I
Mm-hmm.
bounced back. And so if you're hearing this today and you're in a major setback, you can have you can have a marvelous bounce back, but you got to ignite your feet and start moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it seems like whenever there's those negative situations, right? The best of the best always learn the most during those negative situations. They seem to have their best
Yeah.
performances during those negative situations. One thing I was wondering though is,
Mm-hmm.
as you continue to develop in these areas, as these moments that you were hoping weren't going to happen, whether it's failure, maybe business failed, or you got fired, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
How do you make it where the blows don't hurt you as bad? How do you build up kind of like that force field, that shield that kind of helps you resist a little bit better than you used to, right? Maybe now you have big negative reactions, maybe outbursts, or you know what I mean? How can you kind of work on that?
Yeah. So I don't know that you can, other than just learning to take the blow. And the way
Mm,
I did it was, it's like, I think about fighters. I played football. And so there were guys that I played against that I knew even in practice were going to deliver a blow to me. And so if I wasn't willing to take that blow, I couldn't be in that game. And so the fact
mm-hmm,
is, life is rough. And I think
mm-hmm,
what we have got to do is to face the fact that we're going to have to fight to survive. And you're
mm-hmm,
going to get bloody and you're going to get beat up. People that you depend on are going to fail you. People who depend on you, you're going to fail them. But you just got to stay in the game. You can't let yourself get. So that's what happens. Sometimes, I don't know if it was Mike Tyson, somebody said, everybody thinks he's a champion. I don't remember exactly how I said it, till you're punched in the nose for the first
mm-hmm.
time. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
everybody
like,
has a plan or something.
you,
Everybody's got a plan to get punched in the nose or
yeah,
something like
that's
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that, I think that's the truth, that um, you can't learn in life until you really learn during a time that you've had your tail kicked.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, the magnitude, listen, of the blow that I'm hit with now explains to me about the magnitude of the opportunity that I'm pushing for. I usually get the most fight and beat down, so to speak, when something major good is around the corner for me. It just seems like that. And it's just like, I know that I cannot gain without having to fight the fight. I know that. I know that any good thing is going to cause a price. And the fact is, most of the time, Nick, I have to fight my way through and prove myself an endurer so that I can actually win the prize that awaits me. It's just a part of life. So I don't know that there's ways around that. I mean, I think that there's one of the things that I tell people is this. Sometimes you get punched in the face because you asked for it. I mean, we just do things. We make decisions where, you're pushing on the wrong people and you're saying the wrong things. People won't fight back. So some of our beat down, so to speak, are just self-induced because we can't control ourselves, or we're not smart and we're not wise and we're not really thinking, rather than we're just running hard at life. Slow down and realize you're going to take punches, but don't do it because you have put yourself in a place because of a bad decision to get knocked down. Be careful with your decisions, and it'll limit the blows in life you take.
So, I love all that. And I had a couple of quick follow-ups on that one is, first off, when you're talking about anything good, you're going to have to endure for anything good that you want, whether it's some kind of achievement or goal or lifestyle, whatever it is. That's actually how I always think too, is I'm never worried about if I could achieve a goal. I always look at it as am I willing to deal with what I'm going to have to deal with to get there? Right. And if I can agree on that, I say, yes, this is worth it. I'm willing to deal with this, this, and this. And you get kind of a general idea of what it's going to take. Then I will achieve that goal. Right. Otherwise, in my mind, if I'm already saying that's not worth it to me, there's no point in going after it. And then, when we have these problems in our lives, it's like we all think we shouldn't have problems, but we're going to have them. Right. And most of the time, it's like, you asked for this pressure, right? So if I'm sitting here now as like a business owner, right? So I've been in business for 5 years. There's always good months and there's always bad months, right? Some are better than others. There's always going to be issues. There's no matter what, right? There's always going to be issues. And for me, it's like I asked for that pressure. You know what I mean? So when I get mad about it, it's like I asked for this. This is what I wanted. This was the dream. You know what I mean? So it's like you got to accept it. You're like, all right, let's go.
But it's easy to dream, and it's hard to work it out, and it's hard to put the action behind it. So, I think you make a good point. You got to count the cost and realize if you're shooting for something big, there's going to be resistance and there's going to be challenges along the way. I mean, most of the guys in our industry in roofing, they make crazy money, and comparatively speaking, it's really crazy money, and so. But with that comes some hard work. I mean, I know these guys work hard. I mean, right now in Florida, it's 97 degrees. There's guys out here building roofs or inspecting roofs. It's really, really tough. But for a payoff, there's got to be a price.
Yep.
And to your point, knowing and accepting, okay, look, this is just a part of the bargain that comes along with the goal that I have here. I think is maturity, and it helps us to kind of wrap our head around when something comes at us, and stress and pressure, somebody punches us, so to speak. We got, there's a big goal ahead of me. This just comes with it.
And any of these experiences you're having where you're getting kind of knocked in the face, remember, you're not learning much from it if you're not reflecting on it. So make sure you reflect on it and see, what you could have done better. Why did this happen? How did I handle it? All that kind of stuff, right? Any kind of situation that I, handled negatively too, or I think I did better, I try to do my best to reflect on it when I'm, calm down. One thing I wanted to ask you about was, this is, the roofing space that we're talking about, right? And obviously a lot of business owners and people who are building their careers in the space are, listen to it. If I'm an owner, how can I use my business as a platform to reach that good life, right? I think sometimes it almost can become a prison. It can become a job, a stress, all this kind of stuff. How does it no, this is my tool. This is my tool that gets me to my good life.
So I think you have to determine what good life means. If it's a
True.
good life just for you, but if you're a company and you have other people, then I think you building the company around helping not just yourself with the good life, but helping the guys that are helping you get the good life reciprocate to them and providing some type of opportunity in the job that they're doing to find out and to help these guys find the good life too. Listen, I'm all about, I think for us to best extend ourselves, we have to pour our life into people, not just for our own ambition and our own drive and our own desires. We have to be willing to give to other people, because with the measure you give, you receive. And so if we're just sowing into ourselves and trying to make our good life happen, you probably will. But the fact of the matter is, if you have ambition of doing something bigger than yourself, start with the people that you have brought into your business that are dependent upon you and are committed to you and have given the contribution to you, and make for sure that their good life is revealed as well. I think that's a good start.
And I think sometimes as an owner, we all kind of, most of us, I would say, have good intentions and want to do that for our team and people around us just in general. But people like me, sometimes we're so goal oriented. You mentioned the distractions. That's never an issue for me. But sometimes what happens is you're too locked in. You know what I mean? And you're forgetting to kind of enjoy the journey, or you're forgetting to make sure that you're helping people along the way. Did you ever see that with people who are kind of almost too driven in a weird way, or what do you think of that?
I think that people chase what they're hungry for. This is what I think. So
Okay.
if you have an appetite for something, I promise you're going to run after it. And so if you don't have an appetite for something, the same is true. You won't run after it. So when you were talking about that just a second, I thought to myself, if your family is important to you, you will make time for them. It's a hunger you have to satisfy. So I can always look at a man or a woman, and I can listen to them for 15 minutes, and I know where their heart lies. I know where their appetites are, and I'm going to tell you, they're going to chase what they're hungry for. And so if it's being polished and prestigious and being, getting this big personal brand built, just talk to them. You'll know it. You'll see it.
Yeah.
And so, and the same thing is true. I mean, I hear guys say all the time, this is about my family. And I don't see any of that action in their life.
That's true.
Because they are driven and they're never with their family. And I go like, dude, what do you do? So first of all, be honest with yourself and really realize that, what your real priorities are will always be found in the appetites you chase. Always. And so, I don't know that there's any such thing as being too driven. I think because there are some things that I'm not driven enough about that I think should be more of a priority in my life, but I just don't have a hunger for it. And so, I don't know that I've ever seen anybody, if they're balanced. Usually the guys that I see the most driven are extremely balanced. They're madmen at business, but their family doesn't suffer for it. Now, I've seen some gunslingers out there who can go hard at it at work and they lose everything else around them that's important. But most of the successful guys I know have found balance.
Yep.
And they're driven to balance, not to a specific type of life.
So is balance basically about becoming very, very efficient and I guess balancing out where you're hungry and your desires?
Yeah, I think balance just says, okay, here's my life. Here are the 4 or 5 things that go on in my life, or 10 things, whatever they are. And I've got to make for sure, if they're important to me, that I nurture them. I give time to them. I give resource to them. I give whatever is needed for that part of my life to be well-rounded. I don't give it lip service. I give it absolute attention. And so I think that's what balance means. It's like, first of all, clarifying that I read this the other day and it said this: when everything is important, nothing is important. Think about that. when everything is important, nothing is important. So you have to really find out what's important in your life, really break it down to what's very important to you, and pour your time and resource into it. And if it's 4 things, so be it. If it's 3 things, so be it. Whatever it is, if they're equally proportioned in terms of your time and resource, your life will be balanced. And then what will happen, like for me, when one of the areas of my life get imbalanced, I sense it. I can feel it.
Oh yeah.
And or I feel pressure from it. Like if I'm neglecting whatever, my family or whatever, I'll feel that. I'll feel it. And they'll tell me that. But they realize that they're important to me and have that access to me, and their responsibility to me to tell me those things. And then I start going, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. And I start putting more focus there. But sometimes I do get kind of, I lose sight of important things. And so that's what balance is to me. The important things being really important, and that you're giving the value and you're giving the resource needed to make it matter. And then you start sensing more balance in your life. And part of that was cutting out things that really weren't important.
Yeah, and also I could see like maybe being able to say no to certain people or certain things or commitments, right? The ability to do that, to be able to slim down, and also awareness, right? So if you are going off the tracks a little bit, right, and you're becoming unbalanced, to have the awareness to make the changes that are necessary. What about how?
So ask yourself this question. Ask yourself this question. And to everybody that's hearing this, who are you accountable to for the balance in your life? Who is it in your life that has the ability to walk into it unexpected and speak into your life and you receive it? And they'll say to you, you're getting way out of balance here. You're talking about one thing, but I don't see the evidence of the talk. And I think that's another important factor to having a balanced life. You got to have somebody who'll come into your life and speak truth to you, and really doesn't have gain out of it. You know what I'm talking about? It's
yep.
Like, I can't. If I come into your life and I tell you something, and I always tell you it for your gain, and I'm wanting something out of it, that to me is fraudulent. I want to be able, and I've got guys in my life. On the phone with one of them this morning. I tore his butt up. I mean, this is a really good friend of mine, but he's a very successful in the business. But he called and he started whining to me about things. It's like, and he started making excuses about things, and nobody in his life will speak to him and say to him, "Come on, stop." And that's what I told him this morning. I'm like, I get where you're at right now. You're believing your own excuses. And so when you're willing to stop doing that, then call me back and we can deal with real life. There's where you need somebody to be able to come in and punch you in the face to wake you up, to make for sure that though you're talking about balance, you actually are.
I love that. I love that. So the next one is another topic that I like a lot. It is actually about peak performance, right? Peak performance. I've heard things, like getting your flow state, right? I always think about, maybe a sales presentation that I did that I was just like dialed in, or, some sporting event where I just felt it, right? I didn't have to think too much. How do people achieve that, in their careers?
So it's an interesting term. I've just really started studying it over the last couple of years, that flow state. And I think that's really interesting. For me, to really perform at my maximum capacity, there's a couple other things that I've noticed about me that maybe help some people that are hearing the show today. The first thing is I have had to realize with me when I am not being true to myself and being honest with myself about my talents and abilities.
Yeah.
There are things that I want, and there are things that I just can't do. There are things that I'm capable of and things that I'm not. And sometimes I have run in the wrong lane wanting to be something that I wasn't. And every time I minimized my capability of performance, every single time. The second thing I've realized is that I have decided, I've started to come to terms with really who I am. And that's in terms of my communication. That's in terms of, really my compassion. That's really in terms of, my willingness to listen. There's just in my importance in life, because in the past I've been like, my desire is to perform at a peak level so that people will take note of me.
Yep.
And the fact is that is counterintuitive and productive to me and my uniqueness, actually doing what I'm supposed to do to gain the not just needs, but wants of my life for me and my family. And so I don't, I think we think about peak performance as a comparative. If we're not doing 10 million a year, we're only doing 5 million a year, or maybe we should be doing 50 and we're only doing 5. And we start feeling this lopsided, kind of equilibrium in ourselves, going like, there's something wrong with me. And the fact of the matter is, I know a lot of guys today who do 5 million a year who make more money than guys doing $50 million a year, because they maximize what they have in their hands. And it's not about the top line, it's about the kept money, and their focus is maximizing what's left. And so I think it's just kind of, it's not about the pace. It's about the process, and it's about looking and trying to figure out what we want out of this that will cause us to feel like we have performed the way we should, not what everybody else thinks.
All of that was great. I took a lot from that. The biggest one that I kind of took away was the fundamentals, right? So to be able to focus on the fundamentals, not just the sizzle, right? Not the sexiness, not the egotistical things that we're looking for out of our business, or out of what we want out of our personal brand. So focus on the fundamentals, right? So if you want to maximize anything in your life, whether it's personal or through your career, right? Look at the activities you're doing. Right? What are the activities you're doing that they're currently getting the results that you have now, right? And how can you improve on that, right? And systemizing the business even, you know what I mean? Like, think about an owner who is just like, I'm just going to slam rev. I'm a slam rev versus, hey, I'm going to build out a really systemized business, and then I'm going to fill it with opportunities, and I'm going to scale this thing.
Kept money. It doesn't matter what your top line revenue looks like. It doesn't. What matters is how much money you're keeping. That's what matters. That's where your influence takes effect, not just in what you can do for you and yours, but for others around you. Drive for the kept. Keep your focus on the processes are built not to necessarily just draw more top line revenue, but to create more kept money. I want to know how much you're keeping. I don't want to care how much you're selling. I want to know, because your kept money is what's going to, as you're sustaining. I had a college coach, and you said fundamentals and techniques, and it just really ran me back to 40 years ago. I had a college coach. His name was Paul Costa. He's passed, but Paul was an all-pro offensive tackle for the Buffalo Bills back when O.J. Simpson was there, and he was my college football coach. And he stopped me regularly, and he came up to me one day and he said, "Look, man, I'm going to be honest with you. You don't have the size, you don't have the speed, and you really don't have the ability to go to the next level. But what I know is that you'll work hard." I'm like, okay, so I don't know to feel good about that or bad about that. But he said, what I'm going to help you develop is the right technique. Listen, the right technique. He said, because with the right fundamentals and techniques, you can get things done that even more talented people can't, because they're just not technique minded. So what he would make me do is he would take me and get behind me, and we'd walk through steps, literally, listen, steps. I come off the ball. Where's my right foot hitting, from my stance being back? Where's my hand? Listen to this. He said, where is your head when you make impact on the target or the linebacker? And so what he noticed, he filmed me, was that my head I was trying to hook a linebacker, and my head was on the middle to inside of the linebacker's shoulder, which gave me no leverage. He said, all you have to do is to shift your head. That's all you have to do. So when I came into the block, I just moved to the shoulder side of his outside, and I could turn him, because when I turned him, when I hit him at that level, it gave me leverage to push him off the ball. Listen, it's technique. It's fundamentals. And what I ask guys all the time is, are you caring enough for your people to watch them in the field and to pick up on little things, not major things, but just little things that you can teach them and train them and develop them in techniques that will move, that will give them the leverage in the call or in the relationship to turn the customer or to turn the person in their direction. It's about technique and fundamentals.
Beautiful, man. See, that is what it's all about. And you know, you look at athletes, right? And they look at the game film, right? They reflect. They look at that stuff, right? What are you doing as a business owner? Are you looking at the numbers? Are you reflecting? Are you looking at what projects went well, which ones didn't, right? Reflecting, looking at that, having the data, right? Building this thing out. Let's go. I love it. You had me all pumped up here, but I gotta ask you though. Now I'm bringing it back to roofing. All right, I want to hear what your thoughts are. I got to at least ask you, what do you think is the forecast for the roofing industry for these next couple of years? It's been, we had COVID, right? Now we have some economy stuff going on. You know, there's so much stuff going on. What do you think?
So I think stuff's going to go on. It just have a different flavor next year. I mean, there's always going to be challenges. This is a great business, and it's not going to get any different. I mean, it's going to change again. I think what's important is that people expand their horizons. I think it's really important to look at new things coming out, and before you immediately judge them as not for you, ponder, consider, sit on them, think through it, because I think there's going to be some shifts that happen that are going to require business to look a little different from us. I mean, you and I both know the insurance business real well. There's things going on in the insurance business right now that are going to be very, very difficult for contractors. They just are. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be good for, meaning it's still not going to be profitable for contractors, but there is going to be changes that happen, in my opinion, over the next 5 years in regards to insurance claims, and you've seen it already. I mean, there are things that are happening. This is not going away. So my question is, what else are you doing? I mean, what is it that where are your eyes being open to other opportunities? You know, I know there's folks out there talking about financing and retail, and there's just a lot of other things that are happening. You know, MRPs is a big subject right now. I mean, TPAs, third-party administrators, it's a big conversation right now. And so all I'm saying to guys is just look with an open eye at what comes down the pike and see if it fits your business or not. If it don't, no big deal. The future is bright to me. I think the future of roofing is tremendously bright. But you're going to have to adapt some. And if you don't, then you're probably going to get caught in a pinch, and it's going to be difficult for you. But, you know, there changes coming. But look, 2020 with COVID, it was a great year for most everybody in roofing. I mean, I'm not saying our business is recession-proof, but it's close to it. It's essential, right? And so there's always going to be storms. Just broaden your perspective and at least consider other options and opportunities, because it's going to come your way. It's just, are you prepared for it, and does it fit your business?
Always be open-minded, right? Have your ears open, listening to what's going on, what other people in the space are utilizing, what's working for them, right? You know, there's all these different social media groups where people are posting things. I mean, there's different training things you can do. You know, you can meet with reps. There's so many options, right? And what I've noticed with the contractors who are the most successful, they're the ones that are they're always at least willing to have the conversation with, you know, a company that has a resource that could benefit them, you know? And so just be open-minded, you know, whether it's different services, products, you name it, be open-minded with it. But before we jump into the game, I got for you here, Reggie. What's the best way to get a hold of you if somebody wants to get in contact with you?
Yes, I'm all over social media. I mean, you can go on my Facebook, you can find me at Reggie Brock. I mean, I'm on most all the outlets. People can find me there, or they can reach out to me direct. My phone number, I mean, it's 817-908-0808. I'm there to help any way I can. I can be reached at reggie.brock@becn.com. That's my email address. And so, but I mean, I'm not hard to find.
Yeah, make sure you get in touch with him because he's a great guy and somebody you want to be in contact with for sure. Oh, hey there. You come here often? I feel like I see you every Wednesday, and you definitely caught my eye. I'll tell you one thing: you know how to stand out from a crowd. You already got a lot of great things going for you. I mean, I see your company. I see what you got going on. I want to be part of it. How about I give you my number and you send me a text? 720-796-4935. Hey, yeah, it's Nick, right? Peakleads.io. I think we can help you generate some commercial roofing leads. Looking forward to chatting. Talk soon. So the game that we have here is who wants to be a roofing millionaire? Okay, so basically we got 5 quick questions, right? And those questions have to do with maybe your career, roofing, things you like, all that, right? And you have 2 lifelines, so you have a 50-50, which you can use for 1 question, and that will remove half of the wrong answers, right? Leaving you with a 50% chance of getting it right. And then the other one is phone a friend. So you can call a friend. If they don't pick up, you lose the lifeline. Cool?
Uh-huh.
All right. So the first one here.
5 questions.
Oh yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, they're actually they're kind of hard because there's kind of random questions, but it's fun. So first one is Florida is home to over 1,100, so 1,100 golf courses. How many rounds of golf is played in the state of Florida every year? A, 500,000 rounds. B, 48 million rounds. C, 2 million rounds. Or D, 10 million rounds.
I'm going to say C, 2 million rounds, and I'm going to lock in that answer.
He's locking in the answer. Unfortunately, it's incorrect. It is B, 48 million rounds. That's probably half played by you.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's horrible.
That's insane, man.
48 million just in Florida.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's a lot of rounds of golf. That's a lot of rounds of golf. Yeah. All right, now we're going back to roofing now, all right? So, number 2, Beacon Roofing Supply was founded in A, 1975, B, 1901, C, 1928, or D, 1999.
1928.
Yeah, that is right. That is correct. All right. Now we're going to the RV. All right, we're going to the RV. So you bought an RV. So I researched random RV fun facts. All right. So what do you think is the average age of an RV owner? Is it A, 48 years old, B, 33 years old, C, 63 years old, or D, 57 years old?
Okay, let's do I think there's no way it's 33. There's no way it's 48. So we're down to 63 or 57. I'm going to say, oh God, 63, final answer.
It's A, 48 years old. A little bit younger than expected, hey? You started a trend, man. All right. All right. So, of course, we discussed living your full potential. And this is not easy for us, not for a lot of us. And this one's a little bit on almost a sadder note. But according to Inc., what percentage of people do you think fail at reaching their New Year's goals? Is it A, 23%? Is it B, 45%? C, 73%? Or D, 92%?
Let's do 50-50.
All right. So it has removed two of the wrong answers, leaving you with B, 45%, or D, 92%.
I'm going to say D, 92%.
D, 92%, leaving 8% of people who actually reach their New Year's resolution. So 8 in every 100 people will actually reach theirs. That is wild, hey? That is wild. I got one last one for you, and it's going to be another golf question here, okay? One more golf question. As a golfer, you got to respect the career Tiger Woods has had. How many times has he won the Masters? Is it A, 2 times, B, 5 times, C, 3 times, or D, 7 times?
The answer to that question is B, 5.
That is correct, my friend. Well, yeah, you did pretty well. You used one of the
3 out of
lifelines.
5.
Yeah, you used one of the lifelines.
Yeah.
You stored it. So that helped out. Got that one. So well done. And you realize that golf, is very popular in Florida with 48 million rounds. Pretty unbelievable, man. But hey, Reggie, it's been a lot of fun. We have this last little saying that we're basically end with enlightenment. So, like I said, it could be a book, a suggestion, a quote, a life lesson, really something you just want to leave the viewers with.
So there's a book I am reading. I'm going to leave you 2 things. There's a book that I'm reading that's called Above the Line. And it basically talks about there's an imaginary line that's actually real in all of our lives, that we know that if we live above that imaginary line, things are good. If we descend below the line, things get really rough for us. And this book talks about how to find out what that line is and how to stay above it, not below it. I would encourage that. It's written by Stephen and Mara Klemich, Klemich. Great book.
Awesome.
A quote I think about this a lot, and I want to share this as we leave. Denial is an enemy of growth. And so one of the things, let me finish, and truth sets us free to grow in who we are meant to be. So you can deny yourself all you want in terms of the realities of your life, but the only thing that's going to set you free into the life you're destined to live in is truth. So find truth as the North Star of your life. Be willing to not just hear truth, not just even read about truth, but practice truth, and your life will change.
Okay, so I like that one a lot. So it was denial is, what was it?
Denial is an enemy of growth. And truth sets us free to grow into who we are meant to be.
I like that a lot. And it's I'm even thinking about use cases with that one too, where I look at areas where if a client isn't happy or we had issues, and we talk about it as a team, that there's some cases where people, they say, hey, they're not taking responsibility or trying to look at it, right? They're denying it, right? But then when we kind of change perspective and admit where we were wrong, we start to learn where we can grow, where we don't make that mistake again.
That's right.
Amen to that, man. Preach. Always a pleasure, Reggie, man. Thank you so much for joining, man. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, buddy. Thank you so much.